Good evening, everyone. This is Dan Old School Green, once again with Dan Ring from College Football Ring Zone. We are going to proceed with part 2 of the top NFL draft prospects. We are sponsored by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. As always, follow us and subscribe to Heat Ratio Sports on YouTube. So a few days ago, we posted our offensive players that Dan really loves, his top 5 at each position. And he referenced some of the guys that could possibly fall to the 15 and 18 range where the Eagles pick. Today, we're going to do the same exact thing with the defense. We're going to start with the edge rushers or defensive ends. And just like last time, Dan's going to talk about his top 5 and obviously ones that could possibly fall into the Eagles range that the Eagles might be interested in. So without further ado, Dan, welcome aboard, and let's kick this off with edge rushers.
Thanks, Dan. So we have 5 edge rushers that we're going to highlight, but this is a really, really deep class. Probably the in the last 20 years, the deepest class of edge rushers we've seen. Aiden Hutchinson's pretty much everybody's number 1, although lately Thibodeau's been jumping up some boards. He's had some character issues. Doesn't always have the best motor at Oregon. So I think Hutchinson's a pretty secure top edge rusher on the board. Whether Jacksonville takes him first, who knows what that franchise is going to do. But he's probably the top. I actually like Trayvon Walker from Georgia. He killed it at the combine. He's a really, really good player. He's a guy the Eagles have targeted. I don't know if he's going to last to 15. He's shooting up draft boards right now. He's just a physical freak and a monster. And he, you think about who was on Georgia's defensive line, he really stood out among guys who were, they'll have 5 or 6 first-round picks to play for them in the next year or 2. So Hutchinson's the top. Walker's not far behind him. He's a little bit smaller than Hutchinson. I have Thibodeau 3rd. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes 1 overall as well. He flashes. I just don't think his motor is there. He's had some character issues as well. Karlaftis from Purdue is 4th. He's a really good, solid player. He doesn't flash or do anything extremely well, but he does a lot of things fairly well and can be coached up.
Now, you've probably seen some mocks where they have Karlaftis falling to the Eagles and Eagles taking them at 18, but you aren't thrilled with him going in that spot.
No, I think that's high for him. I watched a lot of his games in college in the Big Ten and watched his combine workouts as well. I don't think he's quite as athletic as some of the other defensive ends. Certainly not as Thibodeau, Walker, and Hutchinson. I like him more at the end of the first rounds if the Eagles traded down into the mid to late 20s, which Howie Roseman does. It's not, if a player's not there that they like that they've targeted, they will move down. I think that is a value pick. I think 18 is too high for him. So I'd be surprised if the Eagles pick him there. Another guy who's actually shooting up, my fifth ranked guy, is Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. Watching highlights of him, he's a kid that flashes. He's not quite as big as some of these other guys. Maybe didn't get the pub that Hutchinson and Thibodeau and Walker have. But he's a really good player too, and he wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles reached for him at 18. I don't think he'll be there to the mid-20s. I have him rated a little lower than Karlaftis because of production, and Karlaftis, as I said, I don't think his ceiling's quite as high as Johnson's, but Johnson I think is a really good player as well.
And I guess the last guy we'll close with is obviously he tore his Achilles was David Ajabo. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Was it Achilles or his ACL?
It was Achilles, on his pro day at Michigan,
Right. So is he a potential Sidney Jones type move that the Eagles could do?
In the second round,
yeah.
After they got Sidney Jones, when they went through that whole thing, I'd be shocked if they did that again and went down that route. Ajabo's a really good player
because they were high on him prior to his injury. He was the guy.
They were.
Yeah,
they were. They had him. Most mocks had him in like 15 to 18 in that range. So now I see he's probably going to be a second round pick, maybe even end of the first, a team that has depth, a team like the Buccaneers or the Bengals or the Rams, won the Super Bowl. They have a great defense. They can afford to wait for him. He's going to be out for the year. So you're basically going to have a redshirt year on him.
All right. So I guess in closing with the edge rushers, you're thinking if the Eagles make a play on anyone, it'll be Jermaine Johnson or Karlaftis, and hopefully after they trade back for them.
Yeah, or if Walker's there at 15, I think they take him.
Okay.
I don't know if he's going to last to 15.
Yeah,
I
don't
the
think
Eagles are going
so.
to be able to move up to trade him.
We'll see.
But yeah, if Johnson maybe at 18, Karlaftis, I'd be shocked if they picked him at 18. If they traded back in the first round, they probably could get him. I did an overrated, underrated just for this.
Sure.
And I actually had the sleeper as a Jabo as well because of the injury. But overrated, Tyreek Smith from Ohio State. Not quite as big or as quick as you'd want. And he kind of disappeared a lot of times at Ohio State, which was surprising because they've had a history of great defensive ends. I think he's a little overrated. I think in most mocks he's third round. I look for him more in the fifth round.
Wow.
And maybe a special teams guy. Underrated, I like Josh Paschal from Kentucky. I believe he's from Kentucky. So yes. He's a good player. He's been talked about as well for the Eagles, maybe in like the middle rounds, the second or third round.
Okay.
Really good measurables, big, wide guy. Needs to work on his technique a little bit, but he's a guy that can be coached up, and he's kind of like reminds me of a Josh Sweat kind of guy.
But bigger.
Value for him, but bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like almost 270.
Yeah.
All right. So that's pretty damn good information, Dan. So let's move on to the defensive line, interior part of the defensive line. We'll go tackles.
Okay. Yeah, another Georgia guy. I think pretty much everyone has been talking about is Jordan Davis. He's a freak. The guy's 340 pounds, 6'6", and around like sub 540. The Eagles are definitely targeting him. They see him as a potential replacement for Fletcher Cox next year. Fletcher Cox do a lot of money. I know they caught him. They re-signed him. So I don't know how the salary cap is going to work. They might have some dead money, I think, with Cox in the next 2 years or so, even though they caught him and re-signed him this year for a little less. But they're definitely looking at Jordan Davis as a replacement. He and DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M, I think, are the top two guys on the board. Leal's another really big guy, not as big as Davis, but a guy that can move really well. He's a disruptor in the middle. And probably a little more versatile than Davis as well. You can probably move Leal to the end.
You like Leal better than Wyatt, Devontae Wyatt?
You know what? They're close. So Wyatt had some character issues a little bit ago, but I think those are resolved. I know I've seen some clips of Wyatt as well. I don't think he's quite as big, and he may get swallowed up by some of the bigger interior linemen in the NFL. He had more of a free reign at Georgia because their defensive line was so good.
So of this class, if anyone were to fall in the 15 to 18 range, Jordan Davis would be the guy, or do you think he'll go well before that?
I think he'll go well before that.
His combine really shot him.
Yeah. But I do think if Eagles are targeting him, I think that's a possibility of doing some kind of package. Maybe if he's there at 12, they trade their 15th and maybe like a third rounder to move up to get him. I could see that. That's plausible. And I think that would be a good move for the Eagles. This is, again, another very deep, class. Jones is a kid he's from Connecticut.
Travis Jones?
Yeah, Travis Jones.
He's another 6'4", 326, big
another
kid.
Big guy. He's kind of a late riser. It didn't have a great level of competition in college, but a really big body, and he can move. I kind of put him and Fedarian Mathis from Alabama in the same boat. I think they'll both be, mid-second round picks at the worst. Jones really tested out well at the combine too, and he's got great measurables. He's 6'4", 330 pounds. So he's a one technique or two technique guy, I think.
Who's your potential steal that could be a fixture in this league for 10 years and might not go in the first round?
Yeah, Matthew Butler from Tennessee is a guy to look for. He's not quite as big, but he's really quick. And he played really well against the best competition in the SEC. So against Georgia, Alabama, Florida, over the course of his career. He's right now projected as like a 4th or 5th round pick. I think he'd be a steal there. Really athletic kid, strong for his size. Again, doesn't quite have the girth interior that some of these other guys have, but he's a guy that really flashed when I looked at his film that I really like. So Matthew Butler is a guy that maybe the Eagles, I wouldn't be surprised they targeted him in the 3rd or 4th round. They have 2 3rd round picks, so he might be
correct. Now, who's a guy that you could see taken early that you'd be like, that was a bad pick? I don't see this kid developing.
Yeah, Haskell Garrett from Ohio State. He's a 2nd or 3rd rounder, I think. Now, I like him. I think he's a good player. I think he's a little overrated, and it may have been a scheme, the scheme he was in at Ohio State. Larry Johnson does such a great job with all those defensive linemen there, but he's a tiny bit undersized. I don't think he's quite as athletic as some of these other interior linemen are. I saw him get swallowed up and caught in the wash a lot against some of the better offensive lines in the Big Ten. So Haskell Garrett's a guy I'm not sure. I think he'll stick. I've seen his mocks anywhere from early 3rd round to late 5th round.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to predict, but he's a guy who I see having trouble.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say with the D-line position before we move on to linebacker?
If the Eagles don't pick a D lineman in the first 3 rounds, I'll be shocked.
Okay.
With all the picks they have to fortify that. They have, they signed a defensive end this year in free agency. So they just kind of shored up that position. Brandon Grant's coming back too. But they need some depth and they need to get younger there.
Yeah, they signed the kid from Temple that played at
right. Was it Ridgeway?
Yeah, Hassan
Riddick.
Right. Yeah, Reddick. Ridgeway is the big tackle that they always have on the squad, off the squad. All right, so linebacker. Now, we know that the Eagles have not taken a linebacker in the 1st round since 1979, and that was Jerry Robinson.
It was a really good pick.
Yeah, it was. Now, and then he ended his career as a really good Los Angeles Raider. But, one of the things that was discussed with Jordan Davis is that he was only on the field for 30% of the plays at Georgia. So do you want to go with a guy that's on the field 30% of the time in a rotation, or do you want to go with a guy that is on the field, a 4-down player, kind of like, what Micah Parsons did for Dallas? And this, if there's any year where the Eagles could go with a guy in the 1st round, this could be it. At least I hope it could be, because I'm in love with Devin Lloyd, and I don't want to speak for you, but I could see Devin Lloyd being available for the Eagles where they pick. So give me your thoughts on your top linebackers, your overrated, your underrated, and guys that you would love for the Eagles to target.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, I knew you loved Devin Lloyd. And I love Devin Lloyd too. And he was a guy who I had picked for the Eagles back when I was watching the Bowls, who I thought would be great. He's a sideline guy. He's my top outside guy. And Nakobe Dean is close, but Dean's a little smaller. And Lloyd I think his speed and athleticism and his ability to cover.
Now his combine speed was surprisingly slow. But
his play speed is big. And for linebackers, you're talking about covering running backs and out of the backfield and tight ends, and if you can take good angles, you can kind of alleviate some of that. But he's just a tackling machine.
Right.
And for a very good Utah team and a very good Utah defense, knowing, as you said, how the Eagles grade linebackers and value linebackers, I would be surprised if he went at 15. And then in some of the mocks, I've seen him anywhere from like an 8 or 9 down to like end of the 1st round to New England.
Right.
So I think at 18 he'd be a great pick. And if nothing else, he'll play special teams, because he can really run. He's going to be a good special teamer to start.
He's playing day one. He's on the field. Come on.
I couldn't. TJ Edwards, I think, is one linebacker they have. I couldn't name. I know Singleton signed with the Chargers,
right?
I believe. Sean Bradley from Temple is who they drafted 2 years ago. I don't know if they have any other
They signed
linebackers
that.
on the
They
current.
signed that kid from the Chargers, who I'm drawing a blank on.
Oh, White. Was his name White?
Yeah, who had he's an undersized guy as well.
They have their pattern is to do that, but
Yeah.
Lloyd will be a playmaker. He's 6'3", 230, so he can handle himself in coverage. He can come up and tackle. I really like him too. I would love to see the Eagles get him. I just don't think
and obviously Nakobe Dean would be number 2 on your board.
Yeah, Dean's number 2. He's, as I said, a little bit smaller. He can tend to get when guards get to the second level, they kind of bully him a little bit. He doesn't shed as well as Lloyd does, but he's a really good player too. He's going to be another really good player. So I like him. I like Jacoby McLean, the guy from Auburn, who played really well against top competition in the SEC. He wasn't talked about much going into last year, but he's a kid who I really like. Who's rising up draft boards too. Right now, he's projected 3rd or 4th round, but he's a little bit on the small side. But again, he can really run and has got really good coverage skills. So he's about 3rd of where I have right now on that. Bryant Asamoah from Oklahoma is another guy I like.
He's very undersized though, right?
He's about 6'1", but he's 230 pounds. He's solid. Oklahoma didn't have a great defense this year, but he played well. He's got a lot of positives and a lot of upside. I don't know how well he was coached last year at Oklahoma, so I think he's got a lot of potential to unlock. And I got Jesse Luketa from Penn State, who played a lot of defensive end last year for them as well. But he's a kid who played in the middle at Penn State as middle linebacker and also played outside. And in the pros, he projects as an outside linebacker, and he could be a core special teams guy. Kind of reminds me of Jason Kabinda. When he came out, he was undrafted, but he went to the Lions. He's a fullback.
Right.
For Detroit, they moved him to fullback. So Luketa is a kid who's another bigger kid. He's 6'2", almost 260. But he's athletic and can run. So I could see him moving up to like a 3rd round pick. I think right now he's projected 4th or 5th in most mocks.
All right. So who at the linebacker position, since the Eagles devalue them, could you see them getting in the 3rd or 4th round that could actually make an impact on this on anyone's team?
Yeah, Channing Tindall from Georgia is a good player. They can get some value from him. He's another bigger kid, 6'2", almost 240. I like him. Nick Benito is another kid from Oklahoma who I think is actually overrated, but I could see the Eagles taking a flyer on him in the 3rd or 4th round. I think he'll probably go earlier than that, but I don't think he was that strong on his feet. I thought Asamoah was a little bit better than him last year at Oklahoma. And then there's a bunch of guys who are just really athletic guys. One guy I'm looking at is a sleeper is Darian Beavers from Cincinnati. So if you watch him against Alabama, he made some really, really nice plays against a top offensive line, top team at Alabama.
And he's a tall kid.
He's a tall, rangy kid, 6'4", 255. Another kid who can run. He can cover tight ends. So I would like to see him. I would take a flyer on him in the 4th round.
Okay.
And I would like to see him. I liked his tape and the way he shows. So he and Jack Sanborn from Wisconsin, who's another guy that I think players for the Eagles.
Very good. So we have plenty of sleepers to look at. Now, the position that we're going to talk about next is the cornerback, and that's a position the Eagles definitely value.
But I think we're going to talk about inside linebacker first.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
which is not going to be a long conversation.
All right. So let's talk about
there's 3
inside linebackers. All right.
So before we talk about corners, which there's a lot to talk about, which, the Eagles will definitely be looking.
We're going to talk about the big man from South Carolina, I presume.
As inside linebacker,
yeah,
we're going to talk about Christian Harris first.
Okay.
From Alabama. He's I think far and away the best in this class. He's just another big 6'2", 230 pound, monster out of Alabama who can run. He hits like a Mack truck, and he's called defenses for 3 years. I think he's a junior. Yeah, so he started as a freshman. So he's had a lot of experience in Alabama, and I can't see any way the Eagles are going to go for a middle linebacker with their scheme, but he's a guy who I really like, who I think will go in mid to late first round. Another guy is Quay Walker from Georgia. Same kind of player as Harris, but he's a little bit smaller. He's a little longer, but he's not quite as compact. And I think he gets knocked around a little bit, but he'll certainly be a player. Damone Clark and Chad Muma, two other guys, bigger guys that can call defense, that can really tackle. Don't quite run as well as Harris and Walker, which is why they're a little bit behind them. The fifth guy I have that they have marked as inside is Brandon Smith from Penn State. I watched him a lot. Came in as a 5-star, really athletic guy. People are talking about him like Micah Parsons, but he's nowhere near Micah Parsons. He needs to be coached. He needs a lot of work. He's really athletic, big, looks great in pads, but his play speed he overruns plays all the time and misdiagnoses plays, and is out of position a lot. So he's a kid that needs to be coached up, but he's got talent. If he can harness that, he'll be a good player.
Okay. Now, was it Kingsley Anagbear? Is that how you say his name? The 6'4", 255 linebacker from South Carolina.
Oh yeah. He's not. Let me just see if I have. Hold on a second. I'm just looking at my Bible here. I don't have much on him.
Okay.
I think he's a relative latecomer to the process here. So, do you have more information on him where you heard about him from?
I mean, the linebacker page I'm looking at has him ranked pretty high. They have him as the 45th ranked player, 3rd ranked linebacker.
Okay. Did he? He might have had an injury.
Okay. So, so maybe he's fallen off.
So he might. A lot of these guys that they're late risers or late fallers. The one inside linebacker I liked as a sleeper is Leo Chenal from Wisconsin.
Okay.
He's kind of like a TJ Edwards, typical Wisconsin linebacker. But he's a little more athletic than TJ Edwards. He's a good player. He's going to have a long career in the NFL too, but he'll be like a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Now, I have a question for you. Obviously, the knock on Nakobe Dean is his size, but another guy that came from Georgia that was a small linebacker that seems like he's in on every tackle is Roquan Smith from the Bears. Are there any comparables with Nakobe Dean or any other of the 6 foot 230 type linebackers that we've discussed?
Roquan Smith is a lot more athletic than Nakobe Dean is, coming out of college. I think he's a little bit more stout. Nakobe Dean plays a little high in his hips. He doesn't quite bring the same pop as Roquan Smith did, even when Roquan Smith was coming out of college. So I like Nakobe Dean, and I think Nakobe Dean is more of a better cover guy. He can really run. I just don't know how he's going to hold up when guards and centers get to him at the second level or tackles come out and pull. He tends to get caught up a little bit and push back. He's not real stout at the point of attack. So he makes a lot of plays outside his zone because he's so fast.
Okay.
But so he can play in space. But when there's traffic in front of him, I think he has a hard time navigating that as a middle linebacker. And that's why I like Christian Harris a little bit better than Harris better than him as an inside linebacker, and Devin Lloyd a little bit better on the outside. Devin Lloyd's a little more stout than Nakobe Dean. I watched Nakobe Dean in the championship game, made a lot of plays, but saw some times where he disappeared as well.
All right.
So,
all right. So let's. Are we ready to move on to cornerback?
Yeah, let's move on to corner.
All right. So as I look at my sheet in front of me, I see 4 guys from jump that are ranked in the entire draft in the top 22. And obviously there's 2 guys that really stand out on everyone's draft board. I'm curious if they stand out on yours as well. So why don't you talk about your favorite cornerbacks and someone that could slip to the Eagles in their 15 and 18 range that they could possibly go for?
Sauce Gardner to me is the top one.
Cincinnati, yep.
Yeah, Cincinnati. I love his measurables. Love the way he plays. The fact that Alabama stayed away from him in the college football semifinal think they threw to his side like twice all game. With a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and top wide receivers, tells you all you need to know about the respect that he has. He loves to tackle. Besides being a great cover guy, and he's a bigger kid who still has some room to fill out, and I don't think he's going to lose any of his speed. I think he ran under a 4.4, or maybe ran a 4.45, just pick below or above a 4.4. So he can really run. He was the main reason I think Cincinnati had the kind of year that they did on defense. He just shut down that side of the field. So to me, I know there's some debate about it. He's number one. Trent McDuffie from Washington would be my second corner right behind him.
Wow.
I know you thought I was going to say Stingley.
Yeah.
I like McDuffie. I think McDuffie's a little more physical. McDuffie played in a couple different schemes at Washington. Eagles fans aren't going to like me saying another Washington cornerback. Right. We mentioned Sidney Jones before.
And he's young.
He's very young, and he's a totally different player than Sidney Jones. Sidney Jones is more of a finesse corner. McDuffie will come up and stick his nose in. He's physical at the point of attack where receivers are coming out of there, coming off the line of scrimmage. So he can play bump and run, or he can play zone. He's been mentioned a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if he was there at 18 and the Eagles took him.
Okay.
Stingley, I know, is a guy who most people think is, the best corner in the draft, but he didn't play last year. He had an injury. He's had a clean bill of health. I don't know. I think he's going to get tested a lot. I think he's kind of a guy who's a little confident, bordering on cocky. And I'm not quite sure. I don't know. There's something about him, and when I watched his film and watched some of his games in 2019, that I wasn't crazy about. So his measurables are good, not as good as Gardner or McDuffie. And Stingley's going to be a good player. I just don't know if and he might even go well before the Eagles pick. But I don't see him as a fit as much as the other two guys with the Eagles.
All right. Any other top 20 cornerbacks that you see? Yeah,
Andrew Booth from Clemson is a guy, or in some of the early mocks that was mentioned to the Eagles. He's long. I think he's started from day one at Clemson. They put him out there. And obviously they had a down year this year, but Booth is a guy that I like. I don't see him. I don't like him at 18 or 15. Again, if the Eagles traded down to get some more picks later on, I could see him going in the mid to late 20s. Same thing with Roger McCready from Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
He's a physical corner. I think he's a little bit smaller than those other guys, but he's a guy that also is mid to late or late first round pick, early second round pick. That can be a good player. I don't see him as a starter right away. I think he's maybe a nickel guy. I know the Eagles are really looking for somebody to play opposite Slay, where the first 3 or 4 guys you could probably plug in there. I don't know if you'd be able to do that with McCready.
All right, so those are the guys that are projected to be in the first round. Are there any guys that are going second, third round that you think should be rated higher that could be steals?
Yeah, I think an underrated sleeper guy is Kobe Bryant, who's the other corner from Cincinnati. He had a lot more action this year because nobody was going to throw to the Gardner side, but he held his own. I like him. I like his measurables. He's a gamer. Stick his nose in. He's another guy who's confident, and I think he feels he has something to prove. Not many people were talking about him. In fact, they got him as in most mocks a 4th or 5th round pick. So I think he's talent-wise, he's probably early third. So I could see him as being a steal for somebody if he's in the 4th round. And then the guy who's I think is overrated is Kyrie Lim from Florida. I think he's related to Matt Elam, who was in Florida. They were brothers or cousins. But I didn't like. I thought he played slow. Watched some of his tape this year. I'm not really big on him. I think he's a little small for the position, not quite as stout. And I saw some of the better receivers in the SEC take advantage of him. I think he was a little over aggressive at times. So I think he'll have to be coached up. But I think right now he's still a little overrated. I see him as like maybe a 6th or 7th round pick.
Okay. Anything else in closing with the corners, or should we move on to safety?
It's a great corner class. I can see 5, 6, 7, 8 corners going in the first 50 picks. That's a premium in the NFL right now, and colleges seem to be churning out corners. They're creating a lot of guys who come as quote unquote athletes to college and wind up as corners. Because colleges are so diverse, their offenses are so diverse, and you need at least 3 or 4 or 5 good corners on the college team to compete. So you'll see more and more of the best athletes in the draft, most at cornerback coming out, and you'll see a lot of these kids go high.
All right. Now, regarding safety, I know that if you've been following our previous show and even this show, Dan doesn't just go with the generic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in order on everyone's list. Some of the guys he's ranking as his second or third best at a position are 10th to 12th to 14th on other people's lists. So Dan, thinks outside the box and has his own viewpoint. However, I can't imagine you thinking outside the box with the top safety on everyone's board. Am I right, Dan?
And Dan, you're correct.
Okay.
You are correct, sir.
This guy is a generational safety, isn't he?
Which, and I think it's kind of interesting. He didn't run well, talking about Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
Didn't run well at the combine. And I think some teams are playing games and trying to figure out ways and throw other teams off their scent and see what they want to pick him. I still think he's going to go in the top 3 picks. He is a generational talent. I mean, how many 6'4", 220-pound safeties?
He's a fast linebacker at safety, right?
Exactly. He's almost like a hybrid.
Yeah.
Like a monster back. Yeah, I love him. I mean, I don't really care what his 40 time was. You can see his play speed is great. He's a future captain of a defense, really intelligent guy. He made some unbelievable interceptions last year with great footwork. I mean, he plays almost like a wide receiver or running back when the ball's in the air. So yeah, I'd be shocked if he went lower than 5. And I think teams just are putting things out there to scare other teams off. But there's no character issues at all with this guy. He's just like you said, a generational safety, kind of in the Sean Taylor mode from way back. So I see him. He'll be an All-Pro by the 2nd or 3rd year.
All right, so and that he's gone. Where do the rest fall on your list?
So I have Daquan Brisker, who I watched play a lot this year at Penn State in the last couple of years. Physical guy, really good hands, playmaker, confident guy, vocal, and he really improved a ton from his sophomore to his junior year. So he's a guy who I think they have him as a 2nd rounder, maybe even 3rd. I think I'd be shocked if he's not the 2nd safety off the board ahead of Daxton Hill of Michigan, who I'm not that impressed with, and I'll get into that later. But because it's a relatively shallow safety class, I still think he comes in 3rd or 4th. Lewis Seen from Georgia is up there as well. I watched him make some plays in the SEC championship game and the CFP as well. So Lewis Seen will be up there. And Nick Cross from Maryland is a guy who is a really good athlete, can be a core special teams guy to start, but is a good coverage guy. Started out as a running back, so he has an understanding of angles and coverage. It's a little bit unique to a defensive back. He was highly recruited and went to Maryland, had some ups and downs there, but I think I see him as like a mid-3rd round pick, and he'll be a good pro.
All right, so do you see anyone that is a sleeper that no one has on the radar that could be a contributor from day one?
Yeah, Bubba Bolden from Miami is a guy who I was really impressed with. I've seen some of the drafts saying he doesn't quite have the speed that they want, but he's a big kid. He's 6'3", 205 or 210. I think he can be coached up to cut down some of the angles that he takes. But I really like him. He's athletic. He's a good tackler. Not the best coverage guy yet. Again, his speed is a little bit. He's a little bit stiff sometimes, but I think he can be coached up, and he can be a steal in the 4th or 5th round for somebody.
Okay.
Yeah, and I said Daxton Hill to me at Michigan. I think he's a scheme player,
So he could be
And
your boomer bust guy?
yeah, I see him a lot. And even I think the Eagles were mentioned to him as well at one point at 18, which would be really, really
Nah,
high.
the Eagles won't draft a safety
Of
unless
course, the
they're looking
second
at him
round.
as a hybrid.
Yeah, and I don't know if maybe they were talking if they had traded back or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't see him. I just think he's a scheme player. Michigan was able to hide him with a lot of their better players because they had such a good defensive line. They were able to generate so much pressure on the quarterback. It helped out their safeties and corners a lot. But I just don't see Daxton Hill as somebody that's worthy of a first or high second round pick.
All right. Anything to conclude on the safeties before I ask you a very important question?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go back if you haven't done so already and watch Dan's offensive preview and rankings. And obviously, you've listened to this show. So, Dan, the $1 million question, hypothetically, Eagles stay with 2 first-round picks. Maybe there's a couple machinations where they trade back and we're in the 20s on one of them, and we keep either 15 or 18. But give me Dan Ring's scenario, if he was the GM of the Eagles, on who he would love to see on this team that could be in the 15 to 18 range.
I would love to see them do one on offense and one on defense.
Okay, and who would they be?
Balance that out. So I'd love to see them get Walker at 15. I think by some minor miracle he can slip there if there's a run on wide receivers early. So if Trayvon Walker is there, he or Jordan Davis.
Okay.
I don't know if Davis is going to slip that far, but I'll say Trayvon Walker. And I think after the run of receivers are gone, I think Treylon Burks from Arkansas will be the pick at 18.
Really?
I think you'll see Olave go. I think you'll see Williams go, Garrett Wilson go, maybe Drake London. He's shooting up some board. We talked about him last week. I'm not really high on him, but some teams really like him. I like Burks a lot better than London, and I could see him going at 18.
And you'd be happy with that?
I'd be really happy with that. I love.
Because I know Olave was your guy, correct?
Olave, I like. I just don't think he'll be there. I think
Right.
he's heading. He's shooting up boards. I think he could go. Be the first receiver taken. Burks is a big guy, and he would be a great complement for Smith on the Eagles. And then you can kind of phase out Jalen Reagor, and after next year, he won't be there anymore.
All right.
But hey, they moved Arcega-Whiteside to tight end, so maybe
that's to cut him when he doesn't pan out. All right, so Dan, we will have to do the next time. I anticipate us getting together. We will do a post-draft special, you and I, to see your thoughts on all the picks, and in particular the Eagles picks, and if they reached or got some steals.
Right.
Obviously, it's always nice to evaluate Howie's picks, and we'll see what the expert in Dan Ring has to say on the Eagles draft, which is this Thursday. So on behalf of Dan Ring, I'm Dan Green, the double Dans. As Tony said, we're double Ds. Everyone loves double Ds. Everyone loves double Ds. Everyone loves double Ds. So this is College Football Ring Zone. Dan will be back when college season starts on a regular basis. But again, our next show will probably be a post-draft discussion. So cross your fingers, everyone, that Burks and or Walker or Davis fall into the Eagles' laps, and we'll be back probably in a week or so. So take care, everyone. Good night. Dan, thank you for a detailed breakdown. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Tony. Big shout out to Tony Cotillo and my mentor, Dan Old School Green. This is so much fun working with both of those guys and everybody at the Heat Ratio Sports Network. You can follow me on Twitter at CFB Ring Zone. And as Dan said, during the college football season, we have a lot to talk about. Finally going to have a regular, normal season coming up this year, post-COVID. NIL is a huge thing now, and how that's changing recruiting. I really want to focus on that. We'll do that in some of the preseason things, shows that we'll have. And looking forward to an exciting college football season this year.
All right. Dan, thank you. And once again, good night, everyone. And let's have a nice draft, Eagles. We'll talk to you soon. Good night.
Thanks.